Pleased now to be joined by the newly minted head coach of NC State. He is Will Wade, back by popular demand. He joined us a couple of months ago as the head coach of McNeese, but now he joins us. And Will, welcome. I'm curious, what is it like for a Clemson alum to be the head coach of another ACC school?
Well, I went to Clemson a long time ago, so that kind of wears off. I certainly still follow Clemson in a lot of sports, but look, I'm NC State now. I'm excited to be at NC State. I'm excited about the opportunity. Going to Clemson, I was at Clemson when the ACC had 9 teams, and then it
Yep.
expanded, and now it's expanded even more. So I think it helped give me um, an understanding of the history of the league, an understanding of how important basketball is in the league, and I think that was a critical part to taking the job here, is understanding how important basketball is to the ACC, but also at NC State.
What was your impression of NC State basketball when you were a student at Clemson?
Well, they were really consistent under Herb Sendek. At that time, when I was first there, there's only 9 teams, and I mean, it was just, it was brutal. Everybody, I mean, Maryland was still in the league, and they were winning national championships and going to the Final Four with Gary Williams. And so, look, I mean, Herb Sendek was unbelievably consistent. He's a tremendous coach. Look at what he's doing at Santa Clara right now, and just the players that he has and how good he is in terms of the player development and everything that he does. But NC State was extremely, extremely consistent under Coach Sendek, and look, we had Julius Hodge, who's tremendous player, and Marcus Melvin, just a lot of really, really good, good players that I remember.
So that was when you were student manager at Clemson decades ago in the ACC. How did you go from being a student manager at Clemson to the head coach of NC State?
A lot of luck, a lot of twists and turns. So I was very fortunate, out of Clemson. I was fortunate enough to stay on as the director of operations, which I had no business getting that job. Then I went with Coach Amaker at Harvard, and to VCU with Coach Smart, and then got my first head coaching job at Tennessee Chattanooga, and have kind of been moving along ever since. So you never know where life will take you. I'd have never thought when I started this, hey, you're going to be the head coach at NC State in 25 years. But hey, here we are, and then everything works out for a reason. And excited to be here, excited to be a part of the ACC as we try to storm back as a basketball conference, and hopefully we can play a small role in that.
Will, are you surprised at how quickly you rose in this profession as a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, you never know how it's going to go. A lot of it's just being in the right place at the right time. I was at Tennessee Chattanooga. I had no business getting that job. David Blackburn, the AD, just tremendous guy. He's at East Tennessee State now. The fact that he hired me, I owe my whole career to him. If he hadn't stepped out there and hired me, nothing else would have happened. And then to be able to take over a great program like VCU, the only reason I got that is because I was a head coach at Chattanooga, and I was one of Shaka's assistants. And so to be able to do that, and then to get LSU quickly after that, you never dream at early 30s you're going to be a head coach in the SEC. It was all a little bit too much, too fast for me, but I was able to ground myself being back at McNeese, and just tremendous 2 years there. And I think I learned a lot of lessons. I've been through a lot as a head coach, and that'll suit me well here at NC State.
Now, the common theme in everywhere that you've been as a head coach is that those programs have won and won at a high level. But when you were an assistant, you were also part of a staff at VCU that went on that unbelievable run to the 2011 Final Four. Why do you think you were so ready to be a head coach when you left VCU as an assistant?
Well, we had almost everybody on that staff's a head coach. I mean, our GAs are head coaches now.
Right.
From that staff. Our video guy, Donnie Lind at Mount St. Mary's, who took his team to the NCAA tournament. So, we had tremendous people. That's why you win. But I don't think you're ever prepared to be a head coach. I said this. I was speaking to a group a couple weeks ago, and every assistant coach should be a head coach before they're an assistant. If I went back to being an assistant now, it never works that way, right?
Yeah.
It's impossible for it to work that way. If I went back to be an assistant now, I'd be a tremendous assistant because I know what's important. When I was an assistant, I thought I was really good, but I wasn't. And I actually wrote, after my first year at Chattanooga, I actually wrote a letter to Coach Smart. And I told him, hey, man, I wasn't nearly as good as I thought I was. And here's 8 to 10 things I'd have done a lot differently now that I'm a head coach. And a lot of people on our tree, I think, still share that. Mike Morrell at Asheville he sent it to me the other day. And so a lot of people in our tree still share that. And so I think as an assistant coach, you're never fully prepared to be a head coach because you just don't know all the things. The biggest difference in being the head coach is all the little decisions that you have to make every day that affect everybody in the program. When you're an assistant, all those decisions are made for you. Just step in line and roll with it. And so, being able to get comfortable doing that is a challenge.
Well, what's the biggest difference then in Will Wade, the head coach today at NC State, versus Will Wade the last time he was a power conference head coach when he was at LSU?
Look, I'm much more measured now. I try to be, I try to go a little bit slower and make sure that I'm dotting all my I's and crossing all my T's. Look, I don't want to lose our confidence and our swagger, but we don't want to be cocky, and we don't want to be overbearing, and we don't want to be, just throwing it in people's face all the time. And so I think that, we're going to play this similar style of play. We're going to do a lot of things similarly to how we've done it. What we've done has been very successful. It's worked at a pretty high level. So we'd be not very smart to abandon that, but we're also going to do it, where we measure twice and cut once. We're not just out there, just firing shots everywhere. We want to be snipers. We don't just want to be shooting bullets and hoping that we hit somebody. And so I did a lot of that early on. And I think that our program will be better for that. I think we won't waste as much time. I think our team will be better for that. And I think we're going to win at an even higher level than we've won at before.
Now, well, in between LSU and NC State, you spent, 1 year out of coaching. You spent 2 years at McNeese, which you led to improbable heights as a mid-major school. I'm curious, how much will you always cherish the 2 years that you spent as the head coach in McNeese?
Always. I mean, I get emotional just talking about them every time I talk about them. Just incredible. I needed somebody to pick me up, and the community needs somebody to pick them up after the hurricanes and just kind of everything that had gone on. It just worked. I could coach another 30 years and never have the synergy that we had in McNeese, just between the school, the town, our leadership with our university president, our athletic director. And so I was very, very fortunate, and hopefully, it was my hope by beating Clemson and winning the NCAA tournament game that I was able to give them back as much as they gave to me and my family. And so that was really, really important to me, and just an incredible place. I always will follow. I'll always be a fan. I'll always help out. I've told them, anytime you need me, you call me. I've already been back down there a couple times to do a few things for them. But anything they need from me, if I can be of assistance, I'll help. But the program's in great hands with Bill Armstrong. They're going to keep winning. They're going to keep on going at the top of the Southland Conference, and I'm looking forward to following from afar, because we want to build something that's sustainable. And I think that McNeese has a lot of the traits to be like Murray State's been, where you can just consistently win and plug and chug and really win at a high level. And so hopefully, we will be seen as the folks that started that. And then after us, there'll be even greater heights, and they'll go to the Sweet 16, and they'll be able to really, really do some special things.
Well, you mentioned great heights, and you led McNeese to a great height last March by beating Clemson in the NCAA tournament. You've had some incredible moments in coaching. I mentioned as an assistant, you went to the Final Four on VCU staff. Also, when you were at LSU, you won a game at Rupp Arena against Kentucky. But is the win over Clemson, your alma mater in the NCAA tournament, the greatest height that you personally had as a head coach or coaching in general?
I mean, it's definitely up there. You never, it's hard to compare some of them because every one of them's big in the moment. But I would say, I don't want to be like a prisoner of the moment, be like, absolutely yes. But if it's not one, it's 1, 2, or 3. But I would think it's 1, just because of everything that we had been through and everything that the community had been through. And we'd really been building towards that moment with the team and with the program, and to see just the vision and everything come together was incredible. And hopefully we're not going to be underdogs too much more in the NCAA tournament as we move forward in our career. And so, I've never been a part of as a head coach. As an assistant I was, but I've never been a part as a head coach of being able to pull off an upset like that. And just, I knew what it meant to the school and what it meant to everybody back in Lake Charles. And so special moment, and definitely one of the top moments of my coaching career.
Will, as the cameras pan to the locker room during your run in the NCAA tournament, you could see the togetherness of your group. And when everybody put their hands in, you said something that was pretty powerful that everybody said, in unison. It was sometimes you, sometimes me, always us. What was the genesis of that with your program?
Well, it was something that we actually adopted that year because we had a lot of talent. We had a lot of really good players. We had a lot of transfers, and it was more along the lines of, look, sometimes it's going to be you, sometimes it's going to be me, but it's always got to be about the team. Not all of us are going to play our best every game, and we've got to be focused on the team, and we've got to be focused on the group. And hey, when it's me, I want everybody else to be excited for me. When it's us, or when it's when it's you, and when it's somebody else, I want you to be excited for them. And so that was really where it came from. Actually, I was talking with I'm pretty close. I'm really close with Boog Sadler, the head coach at Nichols, who's just a tremendous coach and tremendous guy, and one of the rising stars in our business, young guy. And he had used that the year before with Nichols, and I was like, that's pretty good, Boog. I kind of took it. I'd never heard it before, and I know some other folks had used it, but I was like, Boog, I like that, and so I took that from him. But it worked for our team. And when you have a lot of talent, everybody's going to understand, like, hey, everybody's not going to play their best every night, but we need to be excited for the guys who do play their best. And, when it comes back around to you and you play your best, we want everybody excited for you, but it's all about the team.
Well, obviously people took notice of what you were doing at McNeese because you were quickly scooped up by NC State and the ACC. How would you describe the dialogue between yourself and Boo Corrigan, the athletic director, the first time you guys met?
Well, the first time we met was actually the last time I was on this podcast. I was sitting in the conference room in the airport. I got there about an hour early so I could film the podcast in my McNeese shirt, and then had a quick change and waited for them to fly in. So, look, Boo's very honest. He's very upfront. He's not going to sell you a dream. He undersells things. And so, I just appreciated, how he goes about his business. He's been in college athletics a long time. His father was an administrator. His whole family, not his whole family, but, his brother, they're all in athletics. His brother just got done producing his last NBA finals. He's been the producer of the NBA finals for 19 or 20 years, and just got done producing his last one. And so, look, he comes from an athletics family. He understands how college athletics work. And I just thought he was real. And I thought that, there was they weren't trying to sell something that they weren't. They weren't trying to be somebody that they weren't. And I found that, that's kind of how I am. On the surface, Boo and I probably look like polar opposites, but we have a lot of commonality in terms of how we think, how we go about things. And I could sense that commonality when we sat down in the room.
Will, earlier in our discussion, you talked about how when you were a student manager at Clemson, NC State was very consistent under Herb Sendak, and Herb Sendak took NC State to the NCAA tournament, took NC State to the Sweet 16 in 2005. But it feels like throughout the course of NC State basketball, there were pockets of success. Coach Sendak obviously had his, run to the Sweet 16. Kevin Keats, took NC State to the Final Four, just a little over a year ago. But why don't you think, from your vantage point, there's been sustained success at NC State? Obviously, you want to mention Mark Godfrey, too, who took NC State to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, Coach Godfrey did a great job. I mean, Coach Keys did a great job. You look at the COVID year, they had a really good team. They had a really, really good team as well during COVID. And so I've known Coach Keats since he was at Hargrave, and he did a good job, a really good job. I mean, took NC State to their first Final Four in 40 plus years, and ACC tournament championship. And so, look, I was very fortunate to inherit a program that was on, you know, we didn't have a ton of players just because of the portal and a lot of the grad transfers, but Coach Keys did a great job and was very gracious and how we transitioned, the program. And there's been a lot of good coaches, Sidney Lowe, and certainly mentioned Coach Gottfried and Coach Sindak. And so, look, the program has been really, really good for a while, and now it's our turn to turn it into a consistent winner. Like you said, it's been in pockets, and we want to have, a 4 or 5 year period where we're constantly in the NCAA tournament. We're constantly getting high seeds or protected seeds. And then a couple of those years we'll break through. One of those years we'll probably get upset and they'll be ready to run me out of town. And the other couple of years, hopefully we'll advance to the second weekend. So, I think a 5 year run where, look, we get bounced early, we go to the round of 32, we go to a Sweet 16 and Elite 8 a couple times, and then we try to break through for a Final Four. I think over a 5 year run, I think that's pretty good. And I think most people would sign up for that today. And that's the task at hand for us here at NC State.
Well, making deep runs in the NCAA tournament is something your neighbors, are used to doing with major regularity. Why is it so invigorating to take a job when down the street you have Duke and North Carolina?
Look, we're excited about the opportunity to compete with the best, and when when some of the best are close to you, that makes it fun. But look, we are focused on ourselves. I think that we have a lot of advantages that maybe we haven't played over the course of the last 20 years, where we spend time complaining about other people or looking at other people. And there's an old saying, comparison's the thief of joy. And so
Yeah.
we try to compare ourselves to these folks like we're different. And we need to embrace our differences. We need to embrace who we are, and we need to recruit to who we are, and we need to play to who we are. And I think if we recruit to who we are and play to who we are, which is blue collar, hardworking, just high standards, good people. If we can do that, I think there's some inherent advantages that we have over our neighbors and over a lot of people that maybe we haven't pressed those advantages enough. And I think that's why we've probably been a little up and down and not as consistent as we'd like to be. But we believe that we've got really, really good stuff here at NC State. And if we maximize everything we're doing at NC State, we don't take a backseat to anybody, both locally or nationally.
Well, what are those advantages that you believe you have?
Well, I think that our university offers a unique environment. Our campus is really nice. Hillsborough Street. We're in Raleigh. You can get to downtown. You can get to downtown Raleigh. So there's a campus vibe within a big city, which is hard to find. And then look, we've got we're the working man's school. We're a blue collar, hardworking school. We got to find players that embrace that and that want to be a part of that and that want to represent who our people are. And I think that that's who I am. I think that's who my staff is. I think if we find players that embrace that and want to be a part of that, that we're going to be very, very successful.
Interesting notes there from somebody who is affectionately known by many as the American Gangster. But before we get to that, I want to ask you, you've mentioned obviously putting together a team through the transfer portal. What are your impressions right now of the roster that you've put together?
I think we've got a good roster. Look, we've worked hard. My staff's done a great job putting this roster together. Everybody likes their team in the summer. So let's,
Yes.
like I told them, the two guys are going to shoot with each other. That I say, yeah, y'all two will hate each other by October, but by all means, y'all keep shooting together and enjoy yourself right now. You won't even want to talk to each other maybe by October. But I like our group. I think we're coming together. Like we're in the forming stages of the team, just because of the portal and some guys finishing classwork. We don't have everybody here. We don't have everybody on campus right now. And so we hope to get everybody here in the next week or so. But I like what we have so far. We've got some really, really good players. We've got some talented players, some players that come from winning programs. And so we're excited about it. Now we got to just form the team and get ready to go for November.
And no player more pivotal than Daren Williams, who comes from Texas Tech, a Texas Tech team that was inches away from the Final Four. And he was, a force for Texas Tech in the NCAA tournament. What's the biggest reason why Daren Williams can single-handedly bring NC State atop the ACC next season?
Yeah, I think D5 is going to be, I think he's going to be a candidate for ACC Player of the Year. He's a tremendous player by our metrics. He was #1 player in the portal and one of the top players in the country. Period. He can shoot, he can dribble, he can pass. I know all that sounds simplistic, but he can score a lot of different ways. He can score, on the perimeter. He can make jump shots. He can score at the rim. He just does a lot of things. He's just a really, really good basketball player, really, really solid, good basketball player. Doesn't make a ton of mistakes. He's been a part of winning at a high level at Texas Tech. He's been coached really well by Coach McCaslam. And so I think that he's going to have a seamless transition for us. He's been really good in our workouts so far. And I really, really like what I've seen from him. But he's an upper echelon player in the league, and he's somebody that you got to have if you want to compete at the top of the ACC. And we're very, very excited to have him.
If there was one player, past or present, that Daren Williams most reminded you of, who would it be?
I don't know. We're trying to transition his game a little bit more, where he's been more of kind of a back to the basket and really a 4, and we want to kind of turn him into more of a hybrid, really showcases guard skills and being able to do a few different things like that. So kind of who he was and who we're transitioning him to be are a little bit different. But I know this: he's a really, really good basketball player. He's going to be a great college player. He's going to be a very, very good NBA player for a long time as well.
Well, he's not the only transfer forward that you added of significance. And this other guy that you added, you kind of stepped out of character from being the American Gangster, and you kind of looked like the Raleigh Renegade, because at an NC State function recently, you spoke glowingly about Van Allen Luben, who everybody knows played last season for North Carolina, had 47 points and 33 rebounds in the ACC tournament last year for the Tar Heels. Why does it mean so much for NC State, especially when you're in your first year, to be able to get a player who played at North Carolina?
I think more importantly, we got a player that is very, very efficient and has proven that he's a good player in the ACC. I think that's the most important part. Now, the fact that he was a couple miles down the road, hey, our fans enjoy that. Our people enjoy that. I think it's the first time we've ever gotten we've ever had a direct transfer from there. And so that's more for the fans to get excited about. But I'm excited because he's a really, really good player. He's a really, really efficient player. And I think in our system, he projects really, really well. He's a hard worker. He does everything that you ask. He can take your coaching and then put it directly into the play. And so great kid, great person, high level player. And I think that he's got another couple gears that we're going to be able to reach here with him this season at NC State. So really, really excited about Vin, and happy that he joined us.
Well, knowing you for as long as I have right now, getting close to 2 decades, I know one of the programs that you have a great reverence for is Houston and Kelvin Sampson. I know you played them when you were at LSU. And, I remember talking to Coach Sampson when he was, starting to be able to recruit better players as incoming freshmen. And one of the players that got him really excited a couple of years ago was Terrence Arseno, who came into Houston with high hopes, but had, injury problems that have slowed his growth. How do you unlock Terrence Arseno next season for NC State?
You named it. I mean, Terrence has been coached really, really well by Coach Sampson, and then Kellen, his son, Quanis, who's at ULL now, and the whole staff at Houston. So we have great respect for them. They're great people, great coaches, and Terrence was an impactful defender. He's one of the most impactful defenders in the Big 12. And our job is to continue what he's done defensively, but also showcase what he can do offensively. And I think, the Achilles injuries are tricky and tough. And, he came back pretty quickly and played last year. And you look at some of the games last year. I mean, played great against Utah. Had a huge play at the end of the Arizona game to help Houston win at Arizona. And so I think he's made some real impacts and spurts offensively, but I think there's something in there that he can be more consistent. And so that's what we're hoping to do while not diminishing the impact that he has defensively. But it's important to get guys from winning programs, somebody like Arseno, somebody like Trey Holloman, who we got from Michigan State, who played under, with Tom Izzo, was a team captain there for 3 years. That stuff's important. Like, winning leaves residue, and those guys got really, really good winning residue to them. Daren Williams as well, coming from Texas Tech. So I think that part's important, and we were fortunate to get all those guys out of the portal.
Well, it's harder and harder for true freshmen, to have an impact in college basketball today because the game has gotten so much older. But I know you're very bullish on Matthew Abel, and I know this is still only June, but why do you think Matt Abel will indeed be able for NC State?
You talk about being older. I mean, Matt's an old soul. He's wise beyond his years. Some kids, you get them, they're 18 years old going on 12. Some kids, you get them, they're 18 years old going on 25. And Matt's 18 years old going on 25. His parent, or his family, and his dad Doug and his mom, I mean, they've done a really, really good job raising him. They've done a good job of making sure that he's wise beyond his years. He's mature beyond his years. He's been through a lot basketball wise, and he's been put in some tough conditions, and he's come out of them, and he's just a resilient guy. And so we're very, very excited about him. I think that he's got a bright future. He'll be a really good player for us in college, and I think he's going to be able to play at the next level as well. Now, whether how long that takes, I'm not sure. But he's got all the right stuff. He's got the right mental makeup, which is as important as having your game. And that's probably what I've been the most impressed with, is how advanced he is with his mental makeup.
Which other players that we haven't mentioned do you anticipate having a major role for NC State during the upcoming season?
Well, I think that Trey Holloman that I mentioned earlier, I mean, he's a winner. He's been a part of winning. We feel really, really good about him. Jerry Dang, a transfer from Florida State, big time shooter. We brought a couple kids with us from McNeese, and Quadir Copeland and Alan Breed. We're hoping to get Alan healthy, and Q made a huge impact for us in the NCAA tournament. Colt Langdon, transfer from Butler, shooter, local kid. And so we've added a couple big kids here late, freshmen, and then big Scotty from Wyoming, who's an elite offensive rebounder. So I think what we talked about earlier, sometimes you, sometimes me, always us, the strength of our team needs to be the strength of our team. Like, the strength of our team needs to be our team. And so we're going to have a lot of guys pitching in, and we're going to have a lot of guys that are playing, that are playing well. And look, we've got really good leadership. We've got a walk-on, Jordan Snell, whose father is a great coach and was at NC State, now on staff at Marshall, and he brings some leadership to us. So we've got a lot of the right stuff, and we're excited about the returners that we have with Paul McNeil, who was one of the best players in the ACC the last 10 games of the year. So I like our team, but we've got to stay a team, and we've got to be a team as we move forward.
And then the team has to be ready early as well, because the non-conference schedule is going to be unforgiving. You have 3 games in the Maui Invitational. You're going to play Auburn in the ACC SEC Challenge, Kansas at home, VCU at home. What will the non-conference schedule philosophy be for Will Wade moving forward at NC State?
Yeah, and maybe one more big non-conference game. Neutral.
Ooh, can you share?
Huh?
Can you share?
No, we've signed our portion of the contract. We're still waiting on the other, but it'll be a good game.
Okay.
Be a good game, close to our fans here in Raleigh.
A little crumb there. We like that.
So, look, we want to be aggressive in the non-conference schedule. we know to be the team we want to be, what it takes to get to the NCAA tournament. And look, if the ACC is only going to give us so many quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities, we're fools if we don't go out and schedule them ourselves. We've got a really good UAB team coming in. We've got a really good Liberty team coming in. Those will both be, quad 2 games at home. And so, you've got to go out and meet the numbers. We can sit here and complain all we want that, oh, the ACC's down, the ACC's out. All right, well, I think the ACC is going to be better this year. I think the teams are going to be better, but we got to go do our job. And if the ACC is only going to give us, 6, 7 quad 1 games, and we got to get to 13, we got to go schedule the other 6. We can't sit there and complain that that's all they're giving us. We know that's what they're giving us, so let's go schedule them. And that's what we're doing. We were going to change a little bit in philosophy on scheduling, but once we got the matchups from the ACC and we were able to kind of ascertain who's going to be quad 1, who's going to be quad 2, we felt like we need to add another quad 1 game, which is why we're going to do this neutral series, with a good opponent who went to the NCAA tournament last year and advanced deep in the NCAA tournament. So we're excited about it. And I'm sure you'll be all over that, finding that out. But we're excited about it, and we're excited about our non-conference schedule, and I think our fans will be excited about it as well. Make for some intrigue, and I think we'll be ready for ACC play when we get done.
Well, we look forward to obviously all that non-conference scheduling tidbits as we continue to move from June until July. But you've touched on it right now with the ACC. From your vantage point, you are a head coach now in the conference. How does the ACC get its brand back?
We got to win. I mean, the reality is we have to win non-conference games. I mean, that if you want to get bids, we've got to have, we got to win 70+% of our non-conference, not quite 70, but mid 60s to low 70s% of our non-conference games. We can't be losing non-conference games. And then when you get in conference, everybody's got good records. And then when everybody's got good records and everybody's playing each other, the numbers don't change much. But everybody's got to schedule, the best teams that they can play, that they have the best chance to beat, which means if you're at the bottom of the league, you need to play, bad teams and win a bunch of games. If you're in the middle of the league, you need to schedule a certain way. If you're at the top of the league, you need to schedule a certain way. And so, I think Coach Smith at Stanford had he called it relegation. Like there's something to it. There's something to it having a huge league like this that's coast to coast with a massive number of teams. Like there's something to that, to make sure that your best teams, all your top 6 teams, let's say, if that's your first division, they all get in, and then you get 2 or 3 of the teams from the middle division in. There's ways to do that. You have to be creative. You have to think outside the box, and I think that's what we need to do to make it happen. But I mean, the simplest answer is everybody needs to win, especially in the non-conference.
Well, non-conference play is going to be very, very interesting for NC State.
We need to avoid the epitome of brutalities.
Yes, you need to avoid the epitome of brutality. But it's going to be interesting for everybody in the ACC because that's how you set yourself up to get more bids on Selection Sunday. And I know you especially are going to be focused meticulously on every game that you coach. But when you look at the alignment of the ACC schedule, both Duke and North Carolina come to NC State this year. I know every single game means a lot on the schedule, but how important is it next year in those 2 games that NC State doesn't just do something with those 2 games, but you create an environment that is obviously going to resonate throughout college basketball?
Yeah, man, I think that we have a passionate fan base. We have a great fan base. Everywhere you go, I mean, in Raleigh, it's red, and people love NC State. And look, we've got to be who we are. I think the Lenovo Center is going to be sold out a lot this year, and I think that it's our job to win the games. And look, if it's an important game for our fans, it's an important game for me. It's an important game for our program. I understand which games are very, very important to our people. If it's important to our people, it's important to me. And it's going to be very, very important to our team. And so we're excited about all the games. But, look, there'll be a little extra certainly when you play some of those teams at home, and our fans are dying, to win those games. And so will we. But we've got to focus on our preparation every day and what we do every day. And then, when we play those teams, we'll see how we are that day. But if it's important to our folks, it's important to us. And we damn sure know how important those games are. And some of those other ACC games are to our fans.
Will, you are not a patient person. This is not a patient time in our society or in college basketball. You want to win now. Your fan base wants to win now. So I'm curious, how in your first season do you make NC State a program that is going to be atop the ACC standings?
Well, we're going to win now. I mean, they want to win, we want to win, and we're going to win. So tell our team, I like my food in a microwave, not a crock pot. Like, we got to get this done and get it done quick. There's no slow roast here. But look, I think, we got good players. That's the first part. You have good players, put it in the system, build it from the ground up with our foundation. And I think we got a chance to have a good team that's competitive. When I say competitive, we want to be in the top 4 of the league, get the double bye in the conference tournament, not play our first conference tournament game till Thursday, whenever that may be. And if you do that, by the time you tip off on Thursday, you're already going to be in the NCAA tournament. You're playing for seeding at that point,
right?
And you can be in good shape. And if we can do that consistently, over a 5-year span, that's our goal, to do that every year. And if we do that every year, we're going to like the results of most of those years. There going to be a year or two maybe we fall short, but most of those years we're going to like the results and we're going to be in a good spot. And so, at the end of the day, that's the goal. That's what we're charged with doing, and that's what we're going to get done.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun to cover. Congratulations again on the job. Thrilled for you to return to the Power Conference level, and as always, look forward to staying connected along the way.
Thanks for having me on. This was fun.
You got it. That's NC State head coach Will Wade. I'm John Rothstein, reminding you to subscribe to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube page.